The first time I saw my husband kiss his mistress, she was holding a box made from my mother's final recipe. Ben's hand was at Lauren Price's waist beside the production line outside Portland. When he kissed her, she laughed against his mouth and raised the box between them as if they were already celebrating. Her face was printed on the back. My mother's was gone. In 21 days, Lauren would tell America on national television that Sue's table came from her family. Before that night ended, her husband would call me with proof that she and Ben had stolen millions. He wanted to stop the launch. I wanted the country to learn the name they had erased. Ben saw me first. His hand dropped from Lauren's waist, but neither of them looked ashamed. "Nora," he said, "you weren't supposed to come tonight." I picked up the next box on the belt. The green Sue's Table logo covered the front. On the back, where my mother's photograph had been, Lauren smiled above the words, "Created by Lauren Price." Inspired by generations of family cooking. There was no Korean text, no Soojin Kim, no mention of me. I tasted sauce from a sample pouch. Honey came first, followed by fermented soybean, garlic, and gochugaru. It was my mother's recipe from page 47, including the extra honey she added because I liked it sweeter. They had kept everything that could be sold and removed the women who made it. 6 months earlier, Sue's Table operated from a crowded kitchen in Seattle. We sold through local stores, Pike Place Market, and an online shop Ben had built. I had refused expansion offers because every company wanted control of the recipes or the story. My mother, Sue Jin, came to Washington in 1989, speaking limited English. She worked 14-hour shifts in kitchens while other people owned the menus and praise. When cancer took her 7 years earlier, she left me a leather notebook filled with Korean, misspelled English, oil stains, and corrections. I named the company Sue's Table because I wanted strangers to know she had existed. Ben knew that. He had stood beside me when we sold our first jar. I believed the dream belonged to both of us. Then Meridian Markets offered to place Sue's Table in all 380 stores. Ben showed me a mock-up with my mother's photograph beneath the logo. The contract, he said, would register the trademark and protect the formulas before Meridian announced the launch. I asked whether an independent attorney should review it. The company's lawyer already did, he said. Meridian's filing window closes Friday. If we delay, they choose another brand. Then he used the one argument I could not ignore. "You said your mother spent her whole life invisible. This is how we make sure that never happens again." I signed while looking at Soojin's photograph. Ben kissed my forehead and told me she would have been proud. What I had actually signed transferred the trademark, formulas, and 78% of the royalties to Jade Collective LLC, secretly owned by Ben and Lauren. I kept 22% and a title with no meaningful control. Back at the factory, Ben watched me read the package. "You signed," he said. "Jade owns Sue's Table. You told me the papers protected it. They protected the launch. For you and her." Lauren folded her arms. "This does not have to become ugly, Nora." I looked at the boxes carrying her face and my mother's food. It became ugly before I walked in. 2 days later, Ben asked me to come to a Los Angeles studio for a founder interview. Instead, Lauren stood beneath the lights in a Sue's Table apron, cooking my mother's tekkabaki. The director asked how it felt to bring her family's recipes to the country. Lauren lowered her eyes at exactly the right moment. "My mother taught me that cooking is how we say love without speaking," she said. "This brand is her legacy." That was when the affair stopped being the worst thing Ben had done. He had not only chosen another woman, he had handed her my mother's life and helped her rehearse it. I confronted him outside the studio. "You made food," Ben said. "I built a company around it. Lauren built the national strategy. You do not get to call that theft because other people did what you could not. What am I supposed to do? Hire a lawyer. See how long 22% lasts after the first month of fees." He went back inside to her. Under the studio awning, my phone rang. "Miss Kim? My name is Adam Price. Lauren is my wife. I found $4.2 million in Meridian launch rebates transferred to a company owned by Lauren and your husband," he continued. "I believe they are stealing from both of us." Through the glass doors, Ben rested his hand on Lauren's back while she laughed beneath a wall-sized photograph of herself. "The broadcast is in 21 days, Adam said. "If you want to stop them, we need to talk tonight." Adam chose a small Korean diner in Koreatown, the kind of place where the menus were laminated and the owner refilled tea without asking. He was already seated when I arrived, wearing a navy suit that looked too expensive for the room and an expression as tired as I felt. He did not offer sympathy. I appreciated that. Instead, he opened a folder between us. Meridian's audit had found $4.2 million in launch rebates paid to Jade Collective. 2 vendors had also billed Meridian far above market price, and the excess money had moved through companies connected to Ben and Lauren. "I can freeze future payments," Adam said. "I can delay distribution. I cannot give your company back to you." "Then why am I here?" "Because I can prove they took money from Meridian. You may be the only person who can prove they took the brand from you." He showed me a photograph of his father outside Meridian's first store in Tacoma. "He taught me that the name above the door was a promise," Adam said. "My wife used that name to move money into a company I had never heard of." Lauren had turned Adam's family reputation into cover, just as Ben had turned my mother into leverage. I gave Adam my conditions. I wanted every document connected to Sue's table, including supplier records, packaging revisions, and the original Meridian pitch. Nothing would be withheld to protect his company. He would not issue statements in my name or use my evidence to negotiate a private settlement. "My condition," he said, "is that Meridian's financial records go through outside counsel. I'm not helping you steal evidence to prove someone stole from you." It was the first honest limitation anyone had given me in months. By the end of lunch, Meridian had appointed me as an independent product origin consultant. The title gave me lawful access to the records behind the launch. I began with my mother's notebook. The formulas Jade submitted to Meridian matched Sujin's handwriting line for line. One recipe even preserved an old error. 1/3 tablespoon crossed out and replaced with 1/3 teaspoon. Ben had copied both versions into the digital file. That mattered, but not enough. The notebook proved where the recipe began. Ben's lawyers could still argue that I had transferred it willingly. My own records were harder to dismiss. Over 10 years, I had filled 847 pages with failed batches, supplier changes, temperatures, and notes no marketing team would invent. Lauren had the finished formula. I had the history of every time it had gone wrong. One page described a batch that separated during a humid August. Another recorded why I reduced the garlic. Those details existed years before Lauren claimed to have created anything. 3 suppliers confirmed they had sold directly to me since 2016. A 4th refused to speak after Jade Collective renewed its contract and added a confidentiality clause. "They're closing doors," I told Adam. "Then we used the ones they forgot were open." The digital files gave us another opening. Meridian's copy of the flagship sauce formula listed Lauren as the owner, but its revision history showed it had been duplicated from my Sue's Table account 4 months earlier. The title had changed. The file had not. It still did not prove that Ben and Lauren had planned to remove me before I signed. We needed something created before the contract. Ben realized what we were looking for before we found it. The video appeared online on a Friday morning. It used clips from 3 meetings. "I want to sell everything. I don't want to do this anymore. Take all of it." The first sentence had been about a spoiled shipment. The second came after a production night that ended at 3 in the morning. The last referred to tax notices Ben had left on my desk. Edited together, they sounded like a confession. By noon, strangers were calling me a liar who had sold her company and returned only after Lauren made it successful. Nora Kim sold out began trending. One comment was repeated often enough to become its own accusation. Her mother was always just part of the marketing. Adam's communications team drafted a response. I refused to release it. "A denial without proof makes me look frightened," I said. "You are being attacked in public. And if we answer before we prove when they planned this, Ben controls the next question." That evening, I returned to the commercial kitchen in Seattle. Jade owned the lease now, and most of the equipment had been tagged for transfer. I sat at the steel table where my mother once corrected my knife grip and opened her notebook to the last page she had written. Her handwriting was weaker there. "Nora, you cook better than I do. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise." I had spent years treating that sentence as comfort. That night, it read like an instruction. I called Adam. "How long until the broadcast?" 17 days. I closed the notebook. "That's enough." The financial records widened the case faster than I expected. 3 of Jade Collective's 7 main suppliers had no warehouses, employees, or history in food production. One was registered to a Portland apartment used as a short-term rental. Another had charged Meridian nearly 60% above the normal price for dried chili powder. I knew the market well enough to recognize the numbers before Adam's auditors finished tracing them. "No one pays that much unless they are buying gold with it," I said. They were not buying gold. The difference moved through accounts connected to Ben. Lauren had approved $4.2 million in launch rebates for Sue's Table. almost 4 times what Meridian usually offered a new brand. On several documents, she had signed with her maiden name, as though changing the name changed the conflict. Then we found the larger plan. Jade Collective had approached 3 other small food companies founded by Asian American families. The offers followed the same pattern: national distribution, urgent licensing agreements, and packaging that centered the founders' culture while reducing the founders' control. In one email, Lauren wrote to Ben, "Asian founder stories sell. We do not need the founders. We need the stories." I read the line twice. Until then, I had believed she wanted my mother's story because it was successful. The email showed something worse. Sujin was not special to Lauren. She was a category. The first person outside our team to contact me was David Chen, the freelance designer who had created the new packaging. He asked to meet in the back of a coffee shop and spent 10 minutes explaining why he could not help before opening his laptop. Lauren had hired him 5 weeks before I signed the Meridian contract. The design history showed Sujin's photograph removed, the Korean text deleted, and Lauren's portrait inserted, while I still believed the expansion would preserve my mother's name. An email from Lauren gave the instructions plainly: remove Korean text, replace founder photo, new direction. David had been paid through Lauren's personal account. I told myself it was normal concept work, he said. Then I saw the video they made about you. He admitted signing a confidentiality agreement and accepting extra money to keep the files private. He feared being sued, and I did not blame him for being frightened. I blamed him for waiting until fear became less comfortable than guilt. Still, the timestamps changed everything. Ben could argue that I regretted a contract. He could not explain why my replacement had been designed before I agreed to leave. 2 days later, his attorney filed a motion claiming my mother's notebook was source material belonging to Jade Collective. The filing demanded that I stop copying, displaying, or using any recipe the company considered its intellectual property. Ben was no longer trying only to own what my mother had made. He was trying to turn the last thing she had touched into inventory. For one night, I let that frighten me. Then I rented a kitchen by the hour and placed my phone on a stack of mixing bowls. I did not open the notebook. I made kimchi jjigae the way my mother had made it when I was sick as a child, a recipe never sold under Sue's table. My hands knew when the broth needed more heat and when the kimchi had softened enough. I did not measure the salt because Sujin never had. When the stew was finished, I looked into the camera. My mother wrote that notebook so I could still hear her after she was gone. Ben may argue that a company owns the paper. He cannot own what she taught my hands. I explained that Lauren had learned the ratios in the commercial recipes. Then I asked one question. If she created them, let her explain why each choice was made. Not what goes into the food, why it goes there. The video was plain and badly lit, nothing like Lauren's polished campaign. It spread anyway. People began asking who Sujin Kim was. Former Pike Place customers posted photographs of the original boxes. 2 local grocers confirmed they had stocked my sauces years before Lauren claimed to have developed them. The public did not suddenly agree. Some still said I had signed away my rights and wanted sympathy after the fact. But the question changed. It was no longer why I wanted the brand back. It was why Lauren's packaging had been finished before I gave it away. Lauren went to Adam's office that afternoon. I know what she said because he called me after she left. She wants the audit stopped, he said. She says Meridian can settle with you privately after the launch. And what did you say? That I am not paying you to disappear so she can keep your mother. Lauren called Ben next. Through a producer she had worked with for years, she moved the live broadcast forward. Adam called again that evening. The show is not in 17 days anymore. How long? 12. I looked at David's files, my mother's notebook, and the list of founders Jade had planned to erase after me. Then we stopped collecting enough evidence to make them nervous, I said. We collect enough to make them turn on each other. The first crack appeared 3 days later. Lauren's attorney contacted Meridian's outside counsel with a prepared statement. According to her version, Ben had designed Jade Collective, controlled the vendor accounts, and used their affair to manipulate her into approving transactions she did not understand. She called herself a victim. Ben answered within 24 hours. He had recorded several of their calls, not because he wanted to help me, but because he did not trust Lauren to honor the ownership she had promised him. In one recording, she told him to replace the packaging before I signed. Once the boxes are in stores, Nora can complain all she wants, Lauren said. No retailer will rebuild a national launch for one founder with no control. Another call placed Lauren at the center of the rebate plan. Ben had saved the recordings because he wanted proof that the empire was partly his. That was the weakness in their partnership. They had built it on the belief that everyone else was disposable, including each other. For the first time, the pressure belonged to them. The recordings did not end the case, but they changed Meridian's risk overnight. Adam called an emergency board meeting. I was not invited, but he told me what happened. His father, Harold Price, flew down from Tacoma, carrying the same photograph Adam had shown me at the diner. Meridian's first store, beneath a hand-painted sign. "You let your wife steal under the roof I built," Harold said. I did not know. That is not a defense for a chief executive. The board wanted the launch postponed quietly. Some members suggested paying me for a confidential settlement, replacing Lauren after the campaign, and calling the change a creative dispute. Adam refused. "If we knowingly distribute a product under a false founder story," he told them, "then the fraud becomes Meridian's decision." The board gave him temporary authority to manage the crisis. If the live verification failed, or if the network sued Meridian for disrupting the campaign, Adam would resign. He did not tell me that until after the vote. "You should have. You would have tried to protect my position. I would have made an informed decision." He accepted the criticism without defending himself. It was his first real mistake with me, and the fact that he admitted it mattered more than a polished apology. The network agreed to add a founder origin verification segment because Meridian's contract required the brand story used in advertising to be materially accurate. The producers imposed limits. We could not accuse anyone of a crime on air. Every document had to be authenticated. Lauren would be allowed to respond, and the host could end the segment if it became a personal attack. I would appear as Sue's Table's original founder and Meridian's independent product origin consultant. Adam would speak only for Meridian. The plan was not to ambush Lauren with unreviewed evidence. It was to ask her to defend the story she had chosen to tell. The night before the broadcast, Adam and I returned to the Koreatown diner. The owner remembered us and brought tea before we ordered. Adam looked more tired than he had at our first meeting. "If tomorrow goes badly, the board removes me before lunch," he said. "If tomorrow goes badly, Lauren's version becomes the version people remember. You will still have the case." This was never only a case. I told him what I had not said aloud before. My mother's story was untidy. Her English changed from page to page. She stained recipes with oil, crossed out measurements, and sometimes wrote instructions that made sense only to us. Lauren's version was cleaner. It had lighting, rehearsal, and a sentence for every emotion. I am afraid people will prefer the lie because it is easier to understand. Adam was quiet for a moment. "I cannot promise they will believe you," he said. "I can promise Meridian will not sell what we know may be false." It was not the kind of promise Ben used to make. It contained nothing outside Adam's control. That was why I believed him. Before we left, he placed a printed run sheet on the table. Lauren would cook first. The host would introduce the verification segment 8 minutes later. I had 11 minutes before the first commercial break. 11 minutes to put my mother back into the story they had written her out of. I folded the run sheet and slipped it beside the notebook in my bag. For the first time since the factory, I was not thinking about how much they had taken. I was thinking about what they had never been able to learn. Lauren walked onto the set beneath a wall-sized Sue's Table logo and told my mother's story with better lighting than my mother had ever received in life. She spoke about generations of family cooking, paused at the right moments, and let her eyes shine when the host asked what the brand meant to her. Then she began making kimchi jjigae. She did it correctly. Lauren had practiced long enough to look natural to anyone who had never seen the dish made at home. She measured without hesitation and smiled when the audience applauded. 8 minutes later, the host announced that Meridian had requested a live founder origin verification. When my name was called, Lauren kept smiling, but one hand tightened around the wooden spoon. The host explained that there was an active ownership dispute and that the segment would not decide legal rights. I was there to verify the product's development history. Lauren said she welcomed transparency. I placed my mother's notebook on the counter. "Why does the Sue's Table version use Taeyang gochugaru instead of Chongyang?" I asked. "Taeyang provides a warmer, more balanced heat profile for a national consumer," Lauren said. It was a good answer. It was also not the reason. When I was 9, Chongyang made my throat itch. My mother changed the recipe because I kept eating from the pot. I opened the notebook. Beside the original formula, Sujin had written, "Nora's throat itches. Use Taeyang. Sweeter. She likes it better." The camera moved closer. Lauren knew the ingredient, She did not know the child who had caused it to change. I showed 3 pages from my development records. The first commercial batch, a failed version that separated during a humid August, and the final formula Meridian received. Each carried dates and corrections made years before Lauren entered the company. Then David Chen's design history appeared on the studio screen. The new packaging, Lauren's portrait, the removed Korean text, the rewritten founder story had been created 5 weeks before I signed the contract Ben claimed had authorized my removal. Lauren called it ordinary concept testing. Companies prepare alternatives all the time. Alternatives are not usually paid for through a personal account, I said, and they do not come with instructions to remove the founder before she knows she is being removed. David's email filled the screen. Remove Korean text. Replace founder photo. New direction. The audience did not erupt. The silence was worse. Adam joined us only when the host turned to Meridian. He did not accuse Lauren of a crime. He said the company had identified rebate and vendor transactions requiring independent review. Meridian would suspend the launch, hold the inventory, and freeze payments connected to Jade Collective. Lauren's expression finally lost its polish. This is a private commercial dispute. Nora was compensated. She signed an agreement. I looked toward the camera. My mother's name was Kim Soo-jin. She was born in Busan in 1962 and came to Washington in 1989 with $200 in this notebook. She worked in restaurant kitchens for 14 hours a day, and most customers never knew who cooked their food. I touched page 23, where an old water stain had dried into the paper. She was a real person. You may have learned her measurements. You may even have learned how to perform her food. But her life is not a brand asset, and her story is not yours. The host went to commercial 30 seconds later. The broadcast did not return my company. It made the false story impossible to sell without questions. Within days, Meridian suspended Lauren. Independent analysts confirmed that Ben's video had been assembled from unrelated clips. 2 other founders contacted Adam with contracts nearly identical to mine. The court allowed me to keep the notebook while the ownership dispute continued. The investigation lasted 8 months. Jade Collective was dissolved. The transfer agreement was set aside after the design files, recordings, and financial records showed that Ben and Lauren had planned to remove me before I signed. Meridian recovered part of the rebate money. Ben cooperated after Lauren tried to place the scheme on him. Both faced consequences that no television segment could impose by itself. Sue's table returned to me. My first decision was to leave Meridian. I thanked Adam and said I would find another distributor. Too much of what had happened carried the price name, and I needed the next choice to be mine. He did not argue. A week later, he came to my new kitchen with a contract. It gave me full ownership, permanent credit for Soo-jin, approval over every formula and package, audit rights, and the right to leave without surrendering the brand. I read every page. When I finished, I asked, "And us?" "That is not in the contract," Adam said. "I do not want you owing me anything before you decide whether there is an us." For the first time since Portland, I smiled without having to remember how. I did not sign that night. I invited him to dinner. After he left, I opened my mother's notebook to the first blank page beyond her final entry. For years, I had treated those pages as proof that her work had ended. I wrote the date, new recipe, for Mom, for me, for whatever comes next. Months later, the first restored Sue's table boxes reached Meridian shelves. My mother's photograph was back. Beneath it were the words I had chosen. Created by Kim Soo-jin. Continued by Nora Kim. A mother's recipe, a daughter's promise. This time, the name on the box belonged to the woman whose hands had earned it.